which is the start of class. And my computer did a weird thing, so hopefully that didn't, no questions. Thank you, Lucretia. Um, my computer did a weird thing, so now I'm all confused about where I was going. But this is week 1 of 4 weeks of critical thinking. It's critical thinking and problem solving. It's kind of a weird course to try to teach, because teaching people to think critically in a 4-week period is a daunting task, especially when sometimes you have a hard time with it yourself. So one of the first things is this is within certain limits. We can have an open forum here and we can say things we want and mean, but at the same time we need to keep it polite. I'm not too worried about people getting offended because we're talking about thinking. In order to be able to think, you have to be able to speak. In order to speak, you have to risk being offensive sometimes. So as long as we don't get out of hand, I think it'll be fine. And sometimes I'll throw chum in the water just to see if I can stir the pot a little bit. People are usually a little wiser, don't get hooked into that, but some people do. So I'm going to start firstly by sharing my screen. If we can go through all the basics here. And one of the things that always happens is when I share my screen, it throws everything into disarray on my screen here. Now, my camera is here. If you see me looking off here, I'm looking off at my other monitor, so I can see y'all here. I look on the other monitor. So this is critical thinking. Like I said, week 1 of a 4-week class. It'll be, I got that wrong. I thought I changed that. It'll be every Monday at 7:30, not 6:30. I will change that while we're talking about it, so don't get it wrong again. I'm glad everybody read my email and didn't get it wrong. Mistakes happen. There we go. So all fixed. Now, one of the things I always talk about is discussions. Discussions. These are 25% of everybody's grade, and everyone always tries to avoid them, right? Oh,
7.
Yeah, I'm a moron, Joanna. 8. 7:30 is when the other one is done. So let me fix that again before I really mess everything up. You have to forgive me. It's been a long month too, because we just came out of business math, and that is always labor intensive for everybody. Except for Mark. Mark seems to be some sort of a genius there. I never even he wasn't even on my radar, and he did so well in the class. So I guess that's kind of the point of it, isn't it? So let me see. So discussions. They are 25% of your overall grade. So you really need to do them. I know a lot of people become uncomfortable with putting their thoughts down on paper and then having somebody reply to them. Krisha said business math stressed her out too. I don't think you were, and Bob and I were sharing the class, so I'm not sure. But I think most people show up to Bob's lecture. But in order to be able to effectively communicate, we need to put our thoughts down on paper, do a little bit of writing, and accept whatever peer responses we can get, whether it be criticisms or agreements. Nobody is looking at you thinking about how dumb your post was or anything like that. Everybody's so in their own head about what they're writing, if they're not out here judging you. So don't feel like, because you have put something out, people get so worried. That's really not the point. Point is, to have a conversation and to move that conversation forward. So once again, when you do your peer replies, we're not just talking about, hey, good job, I like what you said. Alexand. It's, move the conversation forward. Whatever your peer reply should be should help everyone out. So we have 4 of them. They're due. The initial posts are due on Wednesday, and then the peer replies are due on Sunday. And part of the reason that they're split up like that, although you'll see the due date here on Sunday, because we have to give them some sort of due date, I can't split them up like that, is if everybody does their original post by Wednesday, then that gives everybody else something to reply to by the due date on Sunday. All right. So I don't stand here and hammer, into you have to be done by Wednesday, but it really helps everyone out if you can. So, and you'll hear me talk about discussions every week. I'll get on my soapbox, and I'll, at some point about week 3, I start to get on my knees and beg people to do discussions, and I cry, and I'm a crier. It's completely terrible. So in order to avoid that, let's just do our discussions. All right, what else? On our assignments here. Okay, so coming in to the class, you get your 25 points automatically. I should have everybody already down. If you don't show up to class, when you click on the corresponding week, there will be a video link. There'll be a video link here that you can click on, and then you do a 300-word summary of what the video is over. That way you can get your points as well, because the online classroom is 10% of your grade. So not showing up and not doing those can drop you by a whole letter grade. So A's turns into B's, B's turns into C's, and down the line. Okay, those are assignments. So we have, as we know, assignments are due twice a week. You have Wednesdays and Sundays. In this, we're going to have 2 assignments for Wednesday, 2 for Sunday, 2 for Wednesday, 2 for Sunday, 2 for Wednesday, 2 for Sunday, 2 for Wednesday, 2 for Sunday. So we end up with 16 total assignments. I don't penalize people for being late on them, but what happens is you find it piling up on you, and then by the end of the 4 weeks, you're really desperate. And the problem is, at the end of the 4 weeks, we have a little bit of leeway about how much time we can give extra, but for the most part, we are on a hard deadline, and the registrar expects our grades in by Wednesday morning after the class is done. So we don't have a whole lot of time to give to you. If you need some sort of extension beyond what we can give, then we have to get with Bob, and then we have to get with the registrar, and it becomes an entire deal. And that can happen, but like I said, I would use that sparingly. Any questions or comments so far?
Yeah.
Everybody good?
No, I'm good.
Now, and remember, your regular assignments are 65%, 25%, and then 10% for an entire 100% of your grade. So that's the easy math. I go back to the home page. My internet must be super slow tonight. Jeez. Okay, so Zoom class every Monday at 8 p.m. On the homepage, you can also find my information. The best way to get in touch with me, ask questions, is by email. But if you're in a hurry, you need something quick or quicker than email, here's a text, and it is a call number as well. It's a Google Voice number, goes straight to my phone, hopefully, because I just changed phones. So I got to remind myself to make sure that works correctly. I'm even available for you guys to come into the office. They're on 42nd and Sheridan. just let me know when you need to show up and I'll make myself available. I am usually there Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays all day. And then I work from home Thursdays and Fridays unless, I'm needed someplace else. So, and I don't really mind. I do live in Okmulgee, but I don't mind going into driving in for a meeting or whatever. It doesn't happen that often. So when it does, it's not a huge inconvenience. Oh, sorry here. Oh, didn't do that. I'm not really big on online articles like this, but what I do like about this one is it puts everything kind of in a nice orderly fashion of the things you need to do to be successful in online courses. Because doing online, it's not like when I was going to school and you went, you got up every morning and you went to your 9 o'clock class and then you went to your 11 o'clock class and you sit in the classroom, you turn stuff in by paper. I'll say all that went away, but that become quite minimized when when COVID hit. COVID changed everything for everybody. So just a question: how many people had COVID? You got any? How many
I
people had it
did.
more than once? I know, right? Susie, Alexander, I don't know who else. Yeah,
Had it 3 times.
so did I, Kayla. I had it 3 times.
My cousin had
I
about 4. My cousin had about 4 or 5, and he got the shot, and he still got it.
Susie.
I got
had
all the
4.
shots and I had it 3 times also.
Wow.
Got it at
Yeah.
Christmas too.
Oof.
I
caught my first time was late in 2019 with the original strain. I was in New Mexico working, and I was so sick, and they really had no idea what was going on. It was kind of right at the beginning, and so they, filled me up with prednisone and gave me a shot, and nothing helped. So I was sick all the time. I was sick for like a month, but they did give me this cool cough syrup for the cough that really made sleeping pleasant, because you just took a big swig of that and you were out till if I was coughing at night, I had no idea.
And it's the codeine.
I don't know what, I don't think it was codeine. They'd give me a something else, but I will tell you
Promethazine?
that might have been it.
Yeah, that's what they
Is
gave
this
me.
I'm
It'll
telling you, I
knock you
twigged
out.
that. Well, I was out.
Yeah.
So I could have been coughing all night. I would have never known the difference.
Yeah, it'll knock you right on your feet, off your feet.
And then let me see, caught the Omicron, which wasn't that bad. And then, I mean, it was a few days, and then I caught the latest strain, right before I came to work here. So again, for the second time. So yeah, so all of y'all, we know how COVID changed everything from work to, I mean, heck, I get 3 days on campus and 2 days from home. That would have never happened before COVID. So if anybody gets to work from home, at least that's one of the things. My son-in-law, he hasn't been to his office in 2 years. They send him to work from home, and then that's all he's got. That's all he does. So I think it's a really good thing. But anyway, back to my thing here. So this just puts us in an orderly fashion. Things all already know we need to do when we're studying. It's just somebody puts it in front of us and kind of puts it in order. I think some of the important things: make a study plan, time management, and time management is tough. And that's one of my big ones. Is anybody who knows me knows I'm 10 minutes late to everything because I try to squeeze so much into a very limited amount of time. So if I know I have a meeting in an hour, I try to squeeze an hour and 15 minutes worth of work into it. And then I'm always like, oh crap, and you can't do anything until you get done. So time management, it has to be realistic. Dedicated study blocks I like. Now find a quiet space eliminate distractions kind of go hand in hand for me. I had a business partner at one time, and she could not do anything unless it was completely quiet. She just was like that. For me, quiet is the distraction. So I need some sort of ambient noise, whether it be a podcast or music or something playing in the background to help me concentrate. Otherwise, it seems like I can't seem to get my stuff together if it's just really, really quiet. Social media is the bad one. That's a time eater. Break down tasks. That's one I always like, because if you look at this, what we have going on here as a whole, it can seem pretty daunting, even especially over the next 4 weeks. But the whole how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? That's what we do. One assignment at a time, 1 week at a time. Stay caught up, and you will most definitely be okay. Take notes, which we have videos. That's great. Make studying enjoyable, which I know is hard to do. Now, also breaks are part of studying. You can only sit here and listen or watch or read or do anything for a limited span of time until your brain implodes on itself. You really have to take breaks, and some people do it over time. Say, hey, I'm going to work for the next 30 minutes, then take 10-minute break. Or like me, I do it. Mine is task oriented, which is when I finish this task, then I can go do whatever I need to do, whether it be go on Facebook or anything else. See, connect with others, join the study team. There's a lot of people here. If you guys want to get together on your own, that's how I got through college, was make sure I had a study group. I know it's not as easy now that the world's changed, but at some point it really helped me out, especially when I was getting to, especially when I was in engineering school. There were a lot of people a lot smarter than me. And so having, them around, will kind of helps push you forward. All right. So talking about distractions and why you cannot always do things effectively, I always play this Jordan Peterson video pretty much in every class, beginning of every class. I don't know if some of you have seen it, some of you haven't. Is anybody a fan? Not a fan of Jordan Peterson? Hate him, love him, don't know him?
I didn't hear about him till last month.
Not tell me.
Yeah.
He's a fairly divisive figure politically, which in this class I think is kind of fun. Don't know him, but he's this excellent communicator, and this gives us a little talk here about. It's basically here's. Oh, which one you read, Mark? 12 Rules for Life.
I've read that one on Beyond Order now. The next 12 rules.
I have not got to read that one. I did read 12 Rules for Life, and great book, by the way. It's once again, it's things you already know, put into a format where you actually have to think about them. So, and it's especially attractive to men. I think we're his prime target. So, but we'll watch this real quick, and then we'll get back to some of the other stuff. All right, that's what we'll do. Oh, I forgot to share my sound. There we go.
The best way to burn fat and get in shape. It's not keto, paleo, fasting, or vegan, and it's not super intense workout.
Your attention, for example, is mediated by unconscious forces. And you know that perfectly well. And this is another Freudian observation. If you're sitting down to study, for example, your conscious intent is to study, but you know perfectly well that all sorts of distraction fantasies are going to enter the theater of your imagination non-stop and annoyingly, and there isn't really a lot you can do about that except maybe wait it out. So you'll be sitting there reading, and your attention will flicker away. You'll think about, I don't know, maybe you want to watch Jane the Virgin on Netflix or something like that, or maybe it's time to have a peanut butter sandwich, or you should get the dust bunnies from out from underneath the bed, or it's time to go outside and have a cigarette, or maybe it's time for a cup of coffee, or it's like all these subsystems in you that would like something aren't very happy just to sit there while you read this thing that you're actually bored by, and so they pop up and try to take control of your perceptions and your actions nonstop. Maybe you think, well, this is a stupid course anyways, why do I have to read this damn paper, and what am I doing in university, and what's the point of life? It's like you can really get going if you're trying to avoid doing your homework, and then you might think, well, what is it in you that's trying to avoid? Because after all, you took the damn course and you told yourself to sit down. Why don't you listen? Well, because you're a mess. That's basically why. You haven't got control over yourself at all. And no more than I have control over this laptop. Okay, so there's the memory function of the unconscious, and there's the dissolutive function. That's an interesting one. The unconscious contains habits, once voluntary, now automatized, and dissociated elements of the personality, which may lead a parasitic existence. That's an interesting one. I would relate that more to procedural memory. You know, so what you've done is practice certain habits, whatever they might be, let's call them bad habits, and you'd like those things to get under control, but you can't. So maybe when you're speaking, for example, you use like and you know, and you say a lot, and you've practiced that, so you're really good at it, and you'd like to stop it, but you don't get to, because you've built that little machine right into your being, right? It's neurologically wired, and it's not under conscious control, and anything you practice becomes that. It becomes part of you, and that's another element of the unconscious, a different part. And then there's a creative part, which is that, well, you know, you're sitting around and maybe you're trying to write something, or maybe you want to produce a piece of art or a piece of music, or maybe you're just laying in bed dreaming and you have all these weird ideas, and especially in dreams, it's like, where do those things come from? And even more strange, one of the things that's really weird about dreams, and almost impossibly weird, is that you're an observer in the dream. It's like a dream is something that happens to you. Well, you're dreaming it, theoretically, so how is it that you can be an observer? It's almost like you're watching a video game or a movie, but you're producing it, at least in principle, although the psychoanalysts would say, well, no, not exactly. Your ego isn't producing it, your unconscious is producing it. It's a different thing. It's a different thing, and of course Jung would say, well, it's deeper than that. The collective unconscious might be producing it. It's, in some sense, it isn't you exactly, or it isn't the you that you think of when you think of you. And that's the ego from the Freudian perspective, the you that you identify with. That's the ego. And outside of that is the unconscious. The id, that's more the place of impulses, and you could think about those as the biological subsystems that can derail your thinking, right? And that govern things like hunger and sex and aggression and your basic instincts is another way of putting it. And it's a reasonable way of thinking about it, because these are subsystems that you share with animals. You share them certainly with mammals, you share most of them with reptiles, you share a lot of them with amphibians, and even going all the way down to crustaceans, there's commonality, for example, in the dominance hierarchy circuits. And so these are very, very old things, and the idea that you're in control of them is, well, you're not exactly in control of them. And I would say the less integrated you are, the less you're in control of them, and the more they're in control of you. And that can get really out of hand, you know. You can be like with people who have obsessive compulsive disorder, for example, which seems to be, I would say, the dissolutive elements in some sense of the unconscious, the way that it's portrayed here. Poor people with obsessive compulsive disorder, they can spend half their time doing things that they can't really control, and they have very strong impulses to do them, and it's very hard on them to block them. You know, they'll almost panic if those things are blocked. And then you have people with Tourette's syndrome, you know, that they'll be doing all sorts of weird dances and spouting off obscenities and imitating people without being able to control it, and sometimes a little bit of antipsychotic medication can dampen that down, but it's as if there are these autonomous semi-spirits inside of them that grip control over their behavior and make them do things. And you know, you find that to some degree in your own life, because maybe you've become very attracted to someone, even maybe you don't want to be attracted to the person, and then you find yourself, you know, texting them when you know perfectly well that you should be going to bed, and you know, you're in a grip of something and you can't control it. And that's all part of the unconscious and all part of what Freud was studying.
So anyway, we don't have any answers so far. We just have questions, right? Now we know why we have a hard time sitting down and doing things. We just don't have any answers because each of those answers are individualized, you know, for each one of us. We all have our own triggers. We all have our own things. Anybody here, any fellow OCD sufferers? Nobody? Nobody will claim
Me,
it?
100%. That's me.
I mean, and my wife thinks it's hilarious. Number one, I will never, if there's a sidewalk available, I will never walk PTSD. Yes, thank you. That's our next one there, Kayla. I will never ever walk on a grass if there's sidewalk available, ever. It just, number one, we're not animals. There's a reason why I made sidewalks. And then always think it's funny because I never go out without my clothes being pressed. Even my t-shirts have creases in the sleeves. So, and you know, just going through the drive-through at McDonald's without a pressed t-shirt on gives me, you know, makes me panic. So what's that? And I think we had somebody else come in. Was that Margaret Ann? Was
Elizabeth?
she here?
Yeah,
Elizabeth?
it's me. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit late. It was my daughter's birthday, so I emailed you, but I made it a little bit late.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. Elizabeth as well. Let me see if I make sure. Excuse me, I get yours. How old is your daughter?
She just turned 10.
Oh wow, life's about to get really difficult. I'm trying to think who else. Okay, I think I have everybody now. That's all right. She'll be a teenager soon, and so that'll be fun. And then one day she'll be a real person again. You know, that takes like another decade, but they get there. But I will tell you, having raised a girl and a boy, we had one of each. I would raise 3 boys to 1 girl. Y'all are difficult. Talk about throwing chum in the water. Y'all are super difficult. And for any guy out there who doesn't have, I always tell friends of mine who are just having their first children and they're going to be girls. And I'm like, just so you know, by the time she's 10, she's already smarter than you are. And by the time she's 12, if you think you're the boss, then that's because she let you think boss. You are no longer in control. Look, actually, Samantha, like, yep, that's the way it is. Just the way it is. I don't care if you're Stephen Hawking, Albert Einstein, Bill Gates, I don't care how bright you are. She's already smarter than you at 10.
Yeah, my daughter's 4 and she's a freaking little genius, so she thinks.
My son is the same way. He's the same way. If I say something and he'll look at me and he said, Mom, you got it wrong. And I'm like, don't correct me. And he just looked at me. He said, well, you know, I'm right. And I'm like, that's smart mouth.
Well, and see, it's different with boys than it is with girls, because when boys get like that, you can just throw them off the front porch and nobody cares.
Right.
With little
Yeah,
girls,
but
they frown on that.
Mhm.
In fact, with boys, I think they encourage it. So, and you know, I'll tell you, like, you know, when I got too smart with my parents, I'll tell you, like, my mom used to, or my dad used to tell me actually, which was, you know, when I got a little bit too big for my britches is what they called it. He'd just tell me, whatever you do, don't go into the light. Yes. So you knew at some point you were going to be seeing birdies. But, and he's been gone for going on 9 years now. Actually, one of the greatest men to ever, greatest, most patient men to ever walk the face of the earth. So if I could only be half the guy he ever was. All right, any questions or concerns so far?
Mhm.
Everybody's good? Okay, so we know we have due this Wednesday I think I have everybody here for that. This Wednesday, we have our initial post due for this, and then we have our chapter 1 questions. I don't remember, and let me just take a look at this real quick, if this is Applia or not. If it is, we'll have to have a quick discussion over that. It's still Cengage. Everything we do is on Cengage, but there's different platforms on Cengage. Like people who are in business math, it was WebAssign, which is a little different than MindTap. All right, so let me get out of here. Okay, I do not think this is Applia. I could not remember. Okay, if this is Applia, the part of the problem here with Applia is it's another platform, Cengage, MindTap, but they only give you one shot at each
Question.
well, not question, each assignment.
Oh,
But there's an easy way around that. If you don't like what you made on that assignment, just email me. All right, but there's an extra step, because what has to happen is I have to delete that one you did to give you the opportunity to do it over again. So I will never delete anybody's assignments without you emailing me and saying, hey, go ahead and delete this. Now you don't lose that old score. I keep track of that. So let's say you made a 50 and and you didn't like it, so you went back and made a 40. Of course, you get to keep your 50, but I do have to delete that assignment out in order to give you another shot at it. So, and that has nothing to do with Canvas or CCC or anything else. That's just part of the Applia part of the Applia section of Cengage, and it's just kind of a pain in the butt. I apologize for it in advance. Bob and Brandy and I have tried to find other ways around it. There just isn't. So each one of these platforms come with their own foibles. But like I said, just in business math, WebAssign was quite a different thing. And so, but you do not have the ask the teacher button on this, which is wonderful for me, because in business math, I get, inundated daily. I think I spend, 2/3 of my day just answering questions. My internet connection is unstable. Okay, I'm having internet issues tonight, but all right, so we've covered discussions, we've covered assignments, grades, that, instructor information. All right, well, let's look at our first discussion here. Okay, so we're going to look at the Stanford prison experiment and then Abu Ghraib. Does anybody ever had any discussions over the Stanford prison experiment before?
That was messed up. My first time through college, we did it in my sociology class.
Yep, and it is what really, lack of a better term, what Donald said, messed up. It is, what they did is they took college students and they put some of them in the role of prisoners, some in the role of prison guards. And well, you will be, Kelly. She says she's not familiar with it. You will be, because they put each section of these people in their roles, and the prison guard role especially took hold, and they become quickly abusive to the prisoners, which were all just college students, time for a study, and they ended up having to cut the study off because it became such an issue. So, and we see, that's a microcosm of that power struggle, we see in prisons, we see, just in everyday life, of how, people can abuse power and become no problem, Kylan. They can become the worst version of themselves, I think. People say that I would never be like that. That would never be me. And if I lived in Nazi Germany, I would be the person standing up, sneaking Jews out of the country and hide them under the floorboards. But let's just be honest, that 99% of people weren't like that. most people, in Nazi Germany fell into the Nazi propaganda, so, and that had to take hold some way, so we have 19 people here. How many people think, that if things were different, that they would have, helped the people escape, from Nazi Germany? Probably most people in this discussion were like, yeah, I wouldn't be that. I wouldn't be a prison guard. I wouldn't be, working Auschwitz, but a lot of people did. And there was a reason why. So, and the same thing with Abu Ghraib, which was the prison there in Iraq, where there were a lot of abuses going on. And we also saw that also, in Cuba as well, with some of the prisoners from the Afghanistan war and stuff, where, abuses seem to be taking hold, but not all of those were, not all these things were people being abusive as well. Sometimes they were a reaction to the people they were having to deal with. And we understand, like in a maximum security prison, if you're down there working in Big Mac, you can't be a big softy, right? Because those are real criminals, in these prisons. These are the most violent and antisocial people that you can imagine being put in close quarters all in one place. So, how do you define what happens between, the prisoners and the prison guards when, each one is having to deal with, survival on their own? Not just, from prisoner to prison guard, but between prisoners, all the gangs that go on around there, are you ganged up, you with, first off, it's by race, right? And things of that nature. And so you're in survival mode there, trying to navigate the politics of prison, plus trying to navigate, what goes on with the guards and just a specific situation you're in. So yeah, there's no easy answer. So we're going to watch the y'all watch the Stanford prison video, watch the Abu Ghraib video, and then do your post on it. Excuse me. We use APA citations. I'm not really tough on those. Just make sure if you pull something and you put it directly in your post, just make sure you cite it somewhere. Otherwise, it's plagiarism, and we don't want that. When all it takes is a few keystrokes. One of the things I do say is go to, what is it? There it is. Cite this for me. CITETHISFORME. This is a website. It's free. If you want to put something in a citation and keep the APAs going, you can use these. They ask for a sign-on. I thought I already, well, maybe do it like this. I thought I was already signed on, but maybe not. Come on. Huh. Doggone it. So if I can't get into it, I'll have to work it out later, but there we go. But the basic way this works is you'll create a citation list. I'll create a new one. And then you'll pick what kind of citations you want to use. And I think he said APA, didn't he? But we can go with MLA as well. Let me see if I can go to one here. No. Okay. Anyway, all you have to do is put in the information you want. It puts it in a citation for you. I'll have a better example of that. I wasn't quite prepared, and for some reason things are running slowly and badly on my computer today. Okay, then on step 2 here, moving beyond physical prisons built of steel and concrete, what psychological prisons do we create for ourselves and others? If prisons are seen as forms of control which limit individual freedom, how do they differ from the prisons we create through racism, sexism, ageism, poverty, and other social institutions? Please elaborate and refer to the textbook. And I always like these because, you know, that if you do it correctly, there can be a huge conversation going on. Because what I also notice is without even knowing a person, I can look at their discussion post and tell you within just a few years of how old they are. Because of the difference between millennials and people like me who are Gen Xers. And we definitely think a lot differently as generations go by. So, and maybe it can be ageism, but I don't know. There's definitely something to be said for, you know, the way we see things as a group. And I don't like grouping people together. You know, I'm kind of against, you know, tribalism, but there are some stereotypes that are true. And one of them is, you know, Gen Xers have it, most of us have a certain way of thinking and a certain way of doing things. Because, you know, we were latchkey kids by the time we were 10. You know, we had our own key to the house. You'd walk home from school, you'd make yourself a snack, you had chores to do. Mom might not get home until 6, 7 o'clock at night because she had to work. You know, so we come from a whole different line of thinking. So, okay, any questions or comments on that? Well, I think we're going to get out of here a little bit early unless anybody has anything to add or yell at me about.
No, hey Steve, just letting you know, I'm gonna try to finish at least 1 or 2 more of those assignments. I got an email from Bob this afternoon.
Oh, was that was math, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that email from Bob. He logged me into that or looped me into that. So we had a few students who needed a little bit more time. I think we gave everybody till about, what was it, 8 o'clock in the morning or maybe midnight tonight. I'm not sure which one he did.
I think it was midnight. I can at least get 1 more and bring that grade up to a 90. So
Okay. Yeah, those of you who are on the edge, you know, like from 79, 78 to an 80 or 88 to 90, you know, it's just worth doing that. Let me make sure I have, before we let everybody go, let me double check. I think Kylie was the last one to show up. I want to make sure I have her points down. Because if I don't do it now, then it just won't happen. She'd have to remind me, and she'd remind me in email, and she'd be all mad at me, so I can't have that. There we go. Everybody has their points. I am going to officially stop recording. So anybody's had it before knows that you stop recording, that is the end. You can leave.